Thank you, everyone. So pleased to have you all joining us again for the second half of our Starting Strong conference hosted by PACFA and supported by insurance.com, which we are really appreciative of. Now, our next session is, always a keenly awaited topic. It's private practice, compliance and professional protection. And we have three speakers here to talk to you today from their experience. Edwin will be speaking from insurance.com. He's worked in the insurance industry for the last 5 years, specialising in solutions for allied health professionals and partnership management. Edwin brings a deep understanding of the risks and challenges faced by health practitioners. He works closely with association partners to identify growth opportunities and deliver meaningful, value-driven member engagement. And then after that, we're going to have a panel, which Edwin will continue with two members, PACFA, Tyler and Anya, and I will present their bios just a little bit when we get to the end of this insurance information. So we look forward to hearing from all of you very soon. Edwin, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Johanna. It's great to be here, and I hope you've all been enjoying the sessions here today and hearing from the amazing speakers PACFA have organised. As Johanna mentioned, I'm Edwin from insurance.com.au, a proud partner of the Psychotherapy and Counselling Federation of Australia for a number of years now. And I'm here to talk to you all about insurance, particularly professional indemnity insurance and why you need it. Now, I understand most of you are students and probably don't need to worry about this so much right now, but it's definitely something you'll need to think about and organise once you graduate and start working. If you're a student undergoing practical placements through the university and doing supervised work, it's still a good idea to arrange a policy for yourself. And luckily for you, if you're a PACFA student member, you'll have access to a complimentary student policy. I'll explain later how you can apply for this. For the graduates and those of you in early career, professional indemnity is definitely an important consideration to protect yourself. Whether you're an employee or a contractor, it's a great idea to have your own professional indemnity policy to follow you throughout your career due to the claims-made nature of the policy. I'll also explain later what that means in a moment. And don't worry, I know the PACFA students have a great offer for a complimentary policy, but we haven't left the rest of the PACFA members out. We also have a great offer for you too, which is access to discounted premiums. And if you purchase a new policy within this month, you get 15 months cover for the price of 12. And sorry, can we just go back one slide? It's okay, yeah. Just before we begin, I'd just like to direct your attention to the slide showing our disclaimers and important information. And I'd also just like to take the time to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past and present. Next slide, please. So insurance can sometimes feel very confusing or overly technical. So my goal here today is to make it practical, clear, and relevant to where you are in your career journey. Starting out in practice is exciting, but it also brings the responsibility to manage your own risks. Sorting out your own insurance policy to transfer your risk and protect yourself against claims or allegations made against you can help alleviate those concerns and help you continue your work with peace of mind. Even with the best intentions, misunderstandings, accidents, or allegations can happen, and insurance is there to help protect you against those claims, legal costs, and unexpected incidents that could otherwise be financially and emotionally stressful. It may also be commonly required by professional associations like PACFA, employers, and practical placement providers as well to have your own insurance policy. Next slide, please. So one of the most important insurance policies you should have as a health professional, and one that is often required, is professional indemnity insurance. That's a mouthful, sorry. Professional indemnity insurance is designed to protect you against claims or allegations arising from the professional services or advice you provide. In your case, it will be for your counselling or psychotherapy services or advice that you give to your clients or patients. It's very important that when you arrange professional indemnity insurance that you make sure your insured name corresponds with the entity name associated with your ABN. If you don't have an ABN and you operate as a sole trader, please ensure that it's your full name, including any middle names. In the health industry, things can go wrong and misunderstandings can happen, especially within your field dealing with clients going through a challenging time. So for example, claims could arise from negligence, incorrect advice, breach of confidentiality, inaccurate record keeping, miscommunication, and claims can even arise today from services or advice you provided in the past, even dating back years ago. Next slide, please. Another important thing to note is that professional indemnity insurance is a claims made and notified contract. What this means is that you need to have an active policy in place in the event you receive a claim or allegation made against you. Only an active policy can respond to a claim. So for example, if you had a policy last year and it expired or lapsed this year, and today you receive a claim regarding something that happened last year, because your policy had already expired or lapsed, you won't have a professional indemnity policy that can help respond or protect you for the claim that you have just received, even though it was for something that occurred last year when you had the policy. That's why it's important to maintain cover and ensure that you don't have any gaps in your cover, as you may be left uninsured. Some good housekeeping tips to keep in mind is to ensure you keep accurate record keeping, as this can help support your case or argument in legal defense. And also, it's very important that you notify your insurance broker immediately if a circumstance occurs between yourself and your patient and you suspect it might lead to a potential claim in the future. This forms part of your duty of disclosure, and also so your broker can keep a record of it and bookmark the notification if it substantiates into a claim into the future. Next slide, please. Two other important insurance covers to consider are public and products liability. So public liability is designed to cover you for injury or property damage to third parties arising from your business activities, such as slips, trips, and falls, or accidentally spilling coffee on a client's laptop. Products liability is designed to cover injury or damage caused by products you supply or sell. So for example, books, wellness products, therapy tools, or merchandise. These two covers are included and combined together with professional indemnity insurance through the healthcare professional's civil liability insurance policy arranged through insurance.com.au. Next, please. And yeah, I know what most of you may be thinking. I'm just a student right now. I don't need to think about this yet. But actually, it's an important consideration to have your own professional indemnity insurance, even if you're doing practical placement and working under supervision. As you state, you might still have exposure to claims, even if your university or employer say they cover you. So as a PACFA student, you have access to complimentary student policy for no cost. So you have nothing to lose obtaining your own policy. The complimentary student policy is also for the highest professional indemnity and public products liability limit that we offer, which is $20 million, and also gives you access to the 1 hour of complimentary legal advice. Once you graduate and you are fully qualified, you will no longer be eligible for the complimentary student policy and will need to purchase a paid policy. If you're a PACFA member, you get access to special discounted rates for our highest level of cover as well at $20 million for PI and PPL. So we have an offer at the moment where if you purchase a policy by the end of this month, you get 15 months cover for the price of 12. Next month, it will be 14 months for the price of 12, and so on and so forth. When you go on to start working, whether it's for an employer or you go off on your own as a sole trader or contractor, it's important that you arrange your own policy that follows you throughout your career, as you can move jobs multiple times in your life and have your own policy following you throughout that career journey, and to protect you for any claims that may arise for past services is a good way to manage your risk. Next slide, please. And I'm sure you're all wondering where you can get access to the complimentary student policy. So let me tell you, you can easily apply online, and the link can be found on PACFA's website through your student membership pack that you receive when joining up, or you can visit the insurance.com.au digital booth today on the GradComms platform. You'll see on the left-hand side on CrowdComms homepage, there'll be insurance.com.au tab, and just click there and you'll see the link in the description. Next slide, please. So as a quick summary, here are a few important things to note from my 10 minutes of fame or 15 minutes of fame here today. Professional indemnity covers claims arising from your professional services or advice. Public liability covers claims arising from your third-party injury or property damage from your business activities. And product liability covers injury or damage caused by products you supply or sell. And professional indemnity is a claims-made policy, meaning you need an active policy in place to respond to a claim. Claims can arise from your past work or services provided, and it's very important to notify of any potential claims, and also important to have continuous cover to follow you throughout your career. Next slide, please. And just to finish up today, I just wanted to remind you guys that we're running a giveaway today. Just by attending, you'll go into the draw to win a MacBook Air and AirPods, or one of 2 AirPod 4s. And as mentioned before, PACFA students have access to the complimentary student insurance policy, and PACFA members have access to special discounted rates, as well as the current 15 for 12 offer this month, which becomes 14 for 12 next month. I hope that alleviates any concerns or any technical things about insurance. I may have gone a bit technical, but feel free to message me on the chat later if you have any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Edwin. That was really interesting and I'm sure really valuable for our members. And it's great to have insurance broken down in just kind of plain English language and explain to people. I did recently attend a presentation by another organisation which actually got professional indemnity insurance completely confused with income protection insurance. So it's really good to see clear articulation of how this helps clinicians meet their responsibility to the community. And that is what insurance is. It's an important thing. I'd also just remind everyone who's listening today that having adequate insurance that meets the requirements of our standard, which is in the resources section of this site for anyone who is interested, is a requirement of registration and membership. So when you are audited, one of the things we check is your adherence to the insurance requirements. And we do every year catch out a few people who, are often quite disappointed to discover that they've let their insurance lapse, and it's generally not deliberate. But staying on top of that paperwork is so important. So thank you so much, insurance.com, for supporting, for working with PACFA and also for supporting today. So, which is really greatly appreciated. Now, I'm just going to introduce Tyler and Anya, PACFA members who are here with us today and who are going to be on a panel with us to discuss private practice and compliance and risk and all those exciting and interesting things. Tyler brings over 20 years experience across youth work, child protection and therapeutic services, and now works in private practice, offering family therapy and neurofeedback. He also supports PACFA members in his role as ethics and practice coordinator, focusing on ethics, practice guidance and supporting registrants with professional inquiries. Anya is a counsellor and educator who works across private practice and teaching. She specialises in relationship and sexual health counselling, working closely with individuals and couples to navigate intimacy, communication and connection. Alongside her clinical work, Anya also facilitates PACFA's short course, Building Your Private Practice. So thank you both very much for joining us here today. I think it might be just, given the audience that we've got and the really great conversations we've had so far today, it might be great just to start with a little bit of an introduction of yourself, of your own counselling journey, how you came to counselling, what you're doing, and particularly how you feel about and how you've worked in private practice. Tyler, would you be able to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I started back in Wellington, New Zealand, a bit like yourself, Johanna, so origin stories. And I was doing my Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Philosophy through Victoria University of Wellington. And during that, I was a security guard, and I got pulled into the youth justice prisoner transport vans, taking young people who were incarcerated from prison to court and back. That led into a call from a social worker saying, "We need youth workers. You've made an impression. Do you want to start working with some of our vulnerable young people?" And we, aspiring psychology at the time, went, "Yeah, that's me." So I took it up, and that's where we started. Then I did a postgraduate diploma of psychology through Massey University in New Zealand, and that led into more of a care and protection, secure welfare sort of job that I did there. We don't quite have that model in Australia, but think of it as a hybrid between youth justice and adolescent and psychiatric care, live-in facilities. So I did that for a few years before I moved here, and a little bit of residential care in the Australian resi model, and started training at the Bouverie Centre, where I did my clinical masters of family therapy, which was my first real counselling training, and started doing family therapy roles for family service agencies, mostly doing outreach work. Did that for, I've lost count of how many years, but I think it was about 17 years of community service, changing scope a few times, youth work, family services, that child protection, investigations and case management and court sort of work before really going into full-time counselling. So when I was seeing some of the questions coming up earlier, does this sort of government role really count? Can you count those hours and all of that? And I'm sitting there thinking of all the counselling hours I've done in non-counselling jobs, so that by the time I went into full-time counselling, I'd had a bit of a background there. And so, yeah, about 17 years of all of that, decided I can do this myself, but like threading a needle, you see everybody else doing it, and I can do this better and easier myself. I'll just go to private practice and do it all on my own. I'll get away from all that red tape and bureaucracy. It'll be so much simpler and I'll do it so much better. Yeah, about that. It is like threading a needle. It looks easy, but it isn't. And you've really got to slow down and think about the details and things like insurance. If you think, I don't want to think about that, I'm going to be counseling people. I want to work with people and do the fun stuff. It's like, yeah, but when you're out there on your own, you've got to think about all these things and you have to understand them and find it interesting. Like Daniel Bull spending 6 years learning the ropes before he attempted the mountain climbing. Didn't just go for it, So that's where I'm at now, and here in the ethics and practice space, enjoying kind of handing it on a bit. That's me.
Thanks, Tyler. And I think one of the common threads that we're having through the speakers today is the diversity of career journeys that people have had to get here. Anya, it would be a pleasure to hear more about your story, and feel free to add in kind of any extra points that Tyler's comments or Edwin's presentation have raised for you.
Oh, thank you, Hannah, and pleasure to be here. And I suppose, like most of us in this profession, it was a career change for me as well. And what I brought to this profession from my previous life was sales and marketing. So combined with counseling, degree in counseling from oh gosh, forgot where I graduated from. Graduated from ICAP. So it was a while ago. And yeah, basically combining that with the marketing and sales background kind of emboldened me a little bit to do these courses for PACFA. And I got into private practice pretty quickly in the game. I ended up doing 2 placements. One was for my bachelor's and one for my master's. And in both of them, I kind of had different inspirations, what I want to do. And then it was a period where all of my last placement was with Gender Center, where it was the time where counselors were replaced with psychologists, and the funding was kind of shifting towards that. And so it's almost kind of made it happen for me. The decision was kind of rolled really easily for me to go into private practice from there. And I must say, I never looked back. It's despite all of the challenges, which Tyler actually mentioned, yeah, they're all very real. But for me, it still works. And I think understanding of what works for you in private practice is one of the most important building blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe we could just dig into some of that a little bit. We'll go back to Tyler and then we'll come back to Anya. What do you wish you had known before you went into private practice, particularly around risk and responsibility?
I mean, how long have you got for me to talk? I'll kind of pick the top ones, right? And I think a lot of it is on the PACFA website, the good practice guidelines around what are the basic expectations of note keeping, responding to letters and reports, really drilling down your scope of practice as well. And I've probably done this myself and I've seen others do it, where advocacy oversteps, where we really want to advocate for our client, but we're pushing into maybe doing assessments or maybe commenting in a forensic frame that maybe if we just worded that a little bit differently, we wouldn't be at such risk. And I think you can protect yourself from a lot of the risks and meet your responsibilities in really simple ways. It's not that complex, but you got to think about it. and slow down. And I think that coming into PACFA and really analysing that stuff, I'm going, oh, I could use that back there. That would have made that so much easier. A lot of it I've worked out for myself the hard way. And there's all these guidelines just written right there. I could have just read that and saved myself a whole lot of heartache. So I think the slowing down and building the practice before, as opposed to, because I've had a lot of high risk jobs for a long time, I was probably a little bit overconfident. I can handle the client work, sure, but what's the vehicle that I'm using to do this work? Because I have to have built it, and if I haven't put it there, it's not there. So I think just knowing how much resources and available is already there that you can draw on before you go reinventing the wheel yourself, that would have been quite handy.
I think that's such an important point. And indeed, Anya's, leadership in the area of providing guidance and support around building private practice is kind of one of those key resources for PACFA. Anya, what do you wish you'd known about before you got started, and what kind of lessons would you give to all our keen private practitioners out there?
So yes, if I could go back in time and give myself one piece of advice, it would be pick the right tools and stick to them, right? Mm-hmm. Because technology just went so rapidly up. Obviously, one of our legal responsibilities is to keep records. Keeping records is our legal responsibility. And so as I was building my practice, I just went from one thing to another. There were periods where it was Google Documents, and then my records were on Dropbox, and then it was spreadsheet if you go back. And so it was like, if you just look at each year, there will be different technology until eventually I just sort of arrived to a point where I can't keep up with this, and I needed to have some sort of central place where everything lives. And so how I ended up with end-to-end practice management, software, which is, I don't represent any of them, but I can throw in some names. Is it okay, Joanna? I'm sure everybody knows them already, right? Helixy, Clinico, Zanda. Just pick one and stick to it. They're all really good. And so you don't have to then think, oh, which year I've done what to retrieve the records if you ever need them. And it makes your life so much easier, I guess, yeah. And keeping up with automation. Automate everything. Everything you can, automate it.
I think that's one of the things I've noticed is that sometimes not all of our members are as interested in how technology can help them. And so I think that's, it has a real potential, a real benefit for those who are motivated to try it out. Edwin, we've got some questions about insurance in the chat coming through. Are you comfortable to take a couple of questions?
Yeah, of course. I can't see the questions in the chat, but far away, and I'll answer it as best I can.
Okay, I will read a couple out, and it would be interesting to hear Anya and Tyler's perspective as well, as much as possible. So there's a question there about whether if you could talk about it, kind of an example of how you've assisted a counsellor with one of a more kind of common claim in the sector, and how that benefits or how that works for the counsellor.
Yeah, so commonly, like with counsellors, they might see patients sometimes within the same family as well. So there's a really fine line that can be easily crossed when it comes to breach of confidentiality, whether they're consulting, whether they're seeing, say, a son or a daughter, and also seeing the parent as well. Knowing when they can approach the other parent to discuss the matters as well and getting consent. That's oftentimes something we see come up in the claim space. So it's really important that you make sure you follow compliant rules on seeking the right permissions to do that, to avoid breaching your confidentiality in those cases. So, and in those instances, like Tyler and Anya have mentioned, it's also really good to keep accurate record keeping measures as well, just to record those conversations.
Yeah, makes sense. I know that in our ethics space, that complexity often comes up. So it should be something that people are well aware of. And is there a limit on how far back a client can make a claim against a therapist?
So with your professional indemnity policy, I can speak to our product, which has an unlimited retroactive date, which means it can date back as far as you started your practice. So it can go back a number of years to when you first started practicing, as long as the claim or circumstance that you're claiming for was unknown when it had arisen. So if you had known about it prior and failed to notify, often that's sort of the client withholding information, so that's excluded. But if it just came out of nowhere, out of the blue, client had just felt that they realized their service that you provided 20 years ago was inappropriate and decided to claim against you now, the policy would help to protect you in those instances. Yeah, so it could date back years.
Okay, that's really valuable to know. And do volunteers need insurance?
It depends on who you're working for, whether they have an appropriate insurance cover for the volunteer work that you're providing for them. It would be best to check with who's organised you to be a volunteer, whether you require your own professional indemnity or public products liability for those instances. But typically, they should have organised that already, but it never hurts to just check.
I know that PACFA, our volunteers are covered by our policy, and that's, you know, a natural part of being a reputable organisation and our duty of care to our people. I think it does speak a little bit to the idea of maturity of the organisation. Some charities can sometimes be just a, you know, emerging bundle of energy, and sometimes they have not got all that stuff kind of sorted out, and they are relying on people to make sure they're protecting themselves. Okay, so Anya, do you have any thoughts about, you know, when a practitioner is really ready to step into private practice beyond just kind of clinical competence?
You know, I honestly think you just step into it. You just step into it. Yeah. It's a bit of a balance between what Taylor was saying, like you kind of slow down and pace yourself, but at the same time, don't wait too long, because what exactly are you waiting for? It's usually like, if I just get this next certification, if I just go through this one more course, then I will be competent enough, then I will be confident enough. And it's almost like delaying and delaying. I would say just go for it. And there is a lot of learning to be done on the job, because learning on this job never really ends, ever. We all know that. So you kind of start with it. And it's okay. You know, first session is usually fact-finding, as we all know. Yeah, so the first session will be fine. You're just asking more questions. Don't try to solve human problems in the first session. Yeah, and then from there on, you know, you will build on. You will get some competence. You will get confidence in it. Yeah, I don't think there is a magic formula when you will know. I think when you realize that you had enough of this, or you simply can't find a job for a counselor, yeah, which is also completely real. But there is so much demand. There is absolutely no reason sitting there waiting for somebody to give you a job as a legitimacy when there is so much demand for this. Jump in, get yourself insured, get yourself a website, and go for it.
Thank you, Anya. And Tyler, drawing on your combination of private practice and your role at PACFA, do you have any, you know, do you have any thoughts, or can you make any comments about the types of risks or problems that you have seen emerge, and, you know, since you've started to have this kind of dual process?
Yes, and I think it's a scope of practice thing again as well, knowing, looking at what Anya was saying, you kind of know there's got to be a point where you just go, but I think go where? And we've had some aviation people here as well, and I'm thinking about how pilots, you know, they start out with a single engine plane, they get competent at that. There's a day you got to do your solo flight. You and your instructor kind of go, yeah, you've got this, and away you go. But then when you go to something bigger, dual engine, you do another rating, right? And this is like your scopes of practice or your modalities. You don't just go and jump in something completely different. And the biggest thing I've seen here is people going into that couples and family space with an individual counselling training. So I did a family therapy study. So dual clients was a 2-year specialised training. So I was prepared for that, all right? I had 2 years of supervision, training, theory, finished that. There was some live stuff, off you go. But when people go, yep, I've got counselling, I can do this, I'm going to go do some couples work because I've read a few books about it. Please don't. A bit like no pilot would just look at a plane that they've never touched before and go, yeah, I can do that and get in. Yes, there comes a point when you're ready to go, but you do your checks first. You know what you're doing. And I think that that's what we're talking about here from slightly different lenses, but we're saying the same thing. There comes a point where you can delay and just never do anything because you're never ready. But that pause first and your scope of practice, know your modality, you know when you're ready, have confidence. You never really know that you can do it until you have successfully done it. And yeah, there's a felt sense. Something resonated with you there, Ed?
But that all sounds really good. Edwin, from your perspective, how important is having the right professional indemnity insurance, and what should practitioners be looking for?
What's extremely important is, especially in private practice, to ensure you have the appropriate cover in place. Unfortunately, we can't advise on what limits you should select because it's a personal business decision to make, because it depends on like your turnover and the anticipated risks you see. But it's always a good idea for a few things to check off on is your insured name that I mentioned before. Make sure that's correct and in full. Check if the policy has an unlimited retroactive date. Sometimes policies can start from the date that you purchase it, meaning they'll exclude any claims that arise from the past prior to that date. And also check if there's runoff cover included as well. So runoff cover is something for later in your stage in life when you decide to retire or cease business. Claims could still arise from the past work that you provided. So it's a good idea to keep a lookout for runoff cover that's included in the policy as well. Because when you retire, you want to have that peace of mind, knowing that if anything comes up from the past work, you're covered for that as well.
Great. Anya, I'm getting some curiosity in the questions about how you find your clients, and I think they're keen for some tips from your sales and marketing expertise, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Oh, absolutely. Would love to share. So first things first, obviously, Google listing, right? It has to be done. Even now, 10 years in, about 80% of all my clients come from Google. And I ask them all the time, how did you find me? And so it's Google. And the second question, well, second answer, they basically say, you have really great reviews. That is really quite important. And so Google reviews are like the word of mouth of contemporary practice. Yeah. So it's really quite important to have Google listing. And having a website, yeah, because they're going to interact. By itself, website will do nothing. It has to have some sort of more active strategies attached to it, and Google is one of them. And apart from that, it will depend who is your audience, who you're going to work with. Yes, where your ideal clients congregate, how they look for information, because that's how they're going to find you as well.
Great. Yeah. And look, I think, I'm not surprised to see that I've got a question in there about AI, because everyone's always really talking about AI these days. Do you have any opinion on how AI is useful or not useful in the space of kind of promotional private practice?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Honestly, life-changing. So good. The best thing I use in my practice, as far as AI is concerned, is the medical scribe software, which is, I use Heidi Health. There's other couple, I think Nova Note does something similar, but to me, Heidi Health is just fantastic. It saves so much time, and also it's accurate. It keeps the transcript entirely. So if somebody does ask for your notes to be a little bit more in detail, you can immediately go and generate notes which are more detailed. Yeah, so this is like the biggest thing. But also you can use AI tools in your marketing efforts. Yeah, you can use AI tools to analyze your website and suggest improvements. Yeah, suggest how to optimize it better for Google. And yeah, and if you are into writing stuff, if you're into social media, you can do that also with help of AI.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just a question for you, Edwin. So if people are employed by an organisation, are they also required to have their own professional indemnity insurance?
Yeah, so it's always a good idea to check with the employer what they cover you for. That would only cover you for things that you do within that employer. So if you work another job as well or do private practice on the side, providing your services, that obviously wouldn't be covered and you'd need your own insurance policy. But like I mentioned in my presentation before, it's always a good idea to have your own policy for you throughout your career, as you can change jobs. So if you leave that employer and a claim substantiates from past work that you provided under that employer, depending on their policy, they might not cover you for that anymore because you're no longer working with them. So that's why if you have your own insurance policy, just with that peace of mind that it's carried forth towards your entire career journey, it gives you that peace of mind to carry out the good work that you're continuing to do.
That's great, Edwin. Thank you. Now, Anya and Tyler, do you have any last comments for our audience? We're kind of heading towards the end of our session. Is there anything crucial that you think people really need to know before they can? Well, actually, given that we're talking to early career counsellors, what do you know where private practice should sit in their career? Tyler?
I would say be prepared financially, and that's been touched on. And the private practice rate can look very appealing, but divide it by 2 to start with, because your client contact hours, then all your note taking, all the expenses of private practice, it's going to take time, it's going to ebb and flow. I would say really do the numbers on the realistic finances before you jump in, and be prepared. Be prepared. It's not going to be a steady paycheck, and it's never going to make as much as quite as you think. So be ready for that.
Nick, there's something really meaningful around the fact that our membership and our workforce is very dynamic. So there are people who are looking for an interesting second or third career as they, as they're heading towards, a retirement, and they have very different financial needs and expectations from someone who is getting ready to start thinking about having a family. A lot of people come into counselling wanting to work part-time, and that is absolutely reasonable and to being, a fantastic outcome. But there are also people who come into counselling not wanting to work part-time, wanting a steady, reliable paycheck, wanting to take out a mortgage, buy a house, and they can be very different financial situations and pressures. And counselling and private practice can work really well for some people in both of those situations. But people need to be aware of the risks that they're taking. Anya, is there anything that you'd like to add about that, or have I indeed perhaps got something wrong?
No, I think it's exactly what it is. And all I can add is it's really important to make private practice work for you more than anything else, because there is so much demand. If you really want to pay off your mortgage working in private practice, you can, but do you really want to? Because you really don't need 5 days or 6 days a week with 7 appointments a day workload, because you will be burned out in no time flat. And then quality of your work will decrease. And then people stop booking, and here we go. Cycle. So
Very real.
yeah, you really have to, you have to kind of make it work for you, making sure that you arrange practice around your own personal needs and self-care and all of that. And then your work will be really an absolute joy. Yeah.
Thank you. I feel that joy from you both, actually, and I'm so excited about the great work that's done in private practice, and we really appreciate the contribution of insurance.com, both supporting the work of our members. I know that they take a lot of inquiries and calls for more information. I know that they do a fair bit of work around modalities and making sure that they represent the scope of practice for PACFA registrants appropriately. So thank you all very much for participating in this session. And we're going to be going to another session in a minute about supervision and sustainable self-care. So please hang around, everyone. We'll see you soon.